I knew the second line was real because my hands started shaking like I was holding a live wire. I took one test at 6:14 a.m. and another at 6:18 because denial is industrious. Both sticks bloomed pink, like they'd been waiting for this specific morning. I sat on the edge of the tub with my pajama shorts around my ankles and tried to breathe like a person who had planned anything about this. Caleb. I whispered into the phone when he picked up. He sounded awake in that way he gets when he senses I'm not calling for a meme. Sasha? What's wrong? I'm pregnant, I said. Then I said the thing that broke the part of us I believed was unbreakable. I don't know if it's yours. Silence. No slammed door, no swearing. Just the kind of quiet that means the story in someone's head got erased mid-sentence. He inhaled. Okay, he said, and the word was both a promise not to yell and a warning that something big had just shifted. Let me come over. Caleb and I had been ethically non-monogamous for 2 years, which is a phrase that looks great in a dating profile, but behaves like a contract once love shows up. We had rules we thought were simple. No es sleepovers. Condoms with everyone always. No repeating partners without a heads up. No friends. No co-workers. We wrote them down in the notes app like it would keep us safe. We were smug, I see that now, carrying our boundary list like a talisman. We also lived together. Shared a coffee grinder and a cat named Biscuit who yelled at birds like they owed her money. We split rent and groceries and Spotify and laughed when people asked if open was just a phase. We're adults, I'd say, tucking my hair behind my ear the way I do when I want to look like someone who is not bluffing. He sat on the couch like a man in front of a fire he can't see yet. When? He asked. 6 days late, I said, showing him the stick like that would make my stomach less hollow. I meant when with who, he said gently. The way he asked made me want to choose the version of myself he deserves. 2 possibilities, I said. You the night after your sister's birthday and Jordan 2 weeks before that. The dates line up. I tracked everything. I don't. I swallowed. I don't know. Jordan was a repeat. My first mistake. He was a barista with forearms that looked like those Greek statues, and the kind of laugh that makes you forget rent exists. We'd hooked up twice with my full disclosure to Caleb, both times with condoms, both times before Caleb and I added the no repeats without a heads-up rule after an argument about attachment. On the third time, the one that put me in this bathroom, I broke the newest rule right after we wrote it. It was lazy and small and felt exciting in the way anything irresponsible can feel right until the bill comes due. I used a condom with Jordan, I said, defensive even to my own ears. It could have broken. I don't. Caleb looked at me in that patient EMS way he does when someone is telling him why they didn't go to the hospital when their chest started hurting. He's not an EMT, but he has that vibe. Organized kindness. We both know condoms lower risk, they don't eliminate it, he said. I'm not asking for a lecture. I'm asking for facts. I know, I said. I'm trying to give them to you without making myself sound like a villain in a Reddit thread. He exhaled through his nose, that soft sound that means his brain is doing math. Okay, he repeated. Here's what I can do and what I can't. I don't want you to think I did this to trap you, I blurted. I don't even know if I want. The word abortion sits in your mouth like a stone when you need it and a grenade when you're saying it to the man you live with. I need time. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your body, he said, steady. I am going to tell you what I'm doing with mine. I will be here for you as a human. I will go to appointments if you want me there. I will not be on the birth certificate until we establish paternity. I will not pay medical costs as if I am the father before we know I am. If I am the father, I will do everything a father should. If I'm not, I won't be your boyfriend and I won't be the bank. It was so cleanly drawn I almost laughed. You're mad, I said. I'm scared, he corrected. And I'm not going to let fear spend money or sign my name where it doesn't belong. Non-invasive prenatal paternity exists, I said, grabbing at a workaround like an anxious person grabs the handrail. They draw my blood and compare fetal DNA to yours. We could know at 10 weeks. It's like $1,600. He nodded. I've read about it. Of course he had. It's not admissible in a lot of courts. Also, it requires the other potential father's sample to rule him out if I don't match. If I'm not the dad, you'd need Jordan's swab. Do you think he'd agree to that at 9 weeks of something he didn't sign up for? I pictured Jordan behind the espresso machine, the way he dodges anything that looks like a form. He'd balk, I said. He'd say we should wait. I think we should wait, Caleb said. I know that's awful for you. It's also the only thing that doesn't turn this into a trust exercise with a $1,000 cover charge. We live in Oregon. It's one of those states where if you're not married and you want a father's name on the birth certificate, you both sign a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. If there's any doubt, everyone tells you not to sign it because undoing a mistaken AOP is like untangling Christmas lights in hell. I knew that. Caleb knew that. We had talked about it once, abstractly, in the dreamy someday conversations you have when you share a cat and think you're clever. Someday wasn't supposed to be a Tuesday in January with my stomach flipping like a fish. I can't promise you it's yours, I said, and the truth said plainly clawed at my throat. I want it to be, but I can't promise. He nodded once, a man confirming a diagnosis. Then we act like adults who need information, he said. Call your OB. Apply for OHP pregnancy coverage if you qualify. It's fast-tracked and retroactive to the month you apply. They can't add a dad to a plan until the kid exists and he's legally the dad. People on the internet think my insurance can cover your prenatal care. It can't, not until there's a baby and I'm proven to be the father. If I am, I add the baby within 30 days of birth, and it retroactively covers the baby's hospital charges from day one. Some of your bills might get covered by OHP in the meantime. Call the clinic, they'll know the drill. He paused. I'm going to sleep at Wes's for a while. I love you. I'm not playing house with a countdown clock. I didn't cheat, I said, small and defensive. We were open. We were open with rules, he said. You broke the only one that made open feel safe to me. No repeats without a heads up. I don't care about sex. I care about secrets. He packed a bag calmly like men in movies who are going to war. He kissed Biscuit on the head. He put his key on the hook and then reconsidering took it back. I'll need this, he said. I'm still feeding the cat on my nights. He was not punishing me. He was staging a retreat. I applied for OHP that afternoon with my income from the nonprofit and the freelance social media gigs I do for a coffee roaster. Fingers fumbling on the portal, grateful for how unglamorous bureaucracy can be when you need it. The social worker at the clinic called 2 days later with the tone of someone who holds a flashlight in a dark room. It's approved, she said. Coverage retroactive to the first of the month. We'll enroll you in prenatal, set you up with WIC if you want it, and get you on the schedule. Caleb texted. Good. Send me your case number so I can keep a list of bills to cross-check later. He had already made a spreadsheet because he cleans when he's angry and makes spreadsheets when he's scared. I told Jordan over a cappuccino at a table nobody was using. He poured one for himself, hands steady, eyes skittering. You told your boyfriend? He asked. Yes, I said. And I'm telling you because if he's not the father you might be. Condoms, he said like a spell that had failed me. He stared at the milk foam until it fell in on itself. I can do a prenatal test, I guess, but I don't want to be dragged into court by a blood swab. I'm not dragging anyone anywhere, I said too quickly. I'm trying to do this the clean way. He shrugged. Let me know after the baby, he said. We can swap cheeks then. I'm not paying for anything before I know. The mirror of Caleb's sentence felt like a trap closing. Caleb lived at Wes's for a month. He came by to grab a jacket one night, and my chest ached at the sight of him in our doorway. His face so familiar my body made an automatic yes before my brain could translate the new boundary. Do you want me at the 8-week appointment? He asked, shoes still on. He always took off his shoes. Yes, I said. He stood against the wall in the exam room like a dad in a sitcom who got cut from the A plot, nodded at the heartbeat, didn't reach for my hand. When the nurse asked if Dad had any questions he said, not yet, and his eyes flickered like he was trying to hold himself still inside the correct word. We told our parents different stories because theirs are different religions. Mine is practical Midwestern divorce and casseroles. My mother cried in the good way, and then the worried way. You didn't cheat? She asked, voice hesitant, like she doesn't quite know the rules of the game I've been playing. We had an open arrangement, I said, hating how morally fancy that sounds when you say it to your mother. I broke a rule. She nodded like a woman who taught me you can survive anything but a lie. Then looked at me the way women look at their daughters across an ocean made of choices. Caleb's parents are from a world where you do not use phrases like, ethically non-monogamous, unless you're describing a theoretical in a podcast. He told them we were expecting and that paternity was uncertain. His mom said a quiet prayer I didn't hear. His dad asked if Caleb had a lawyer. Caleb said, not yet. We have information to collect, not a case to win. There's a special kind of tension that comes from carrying two things at once. A baby you didn't plan and a man's boundary you did. I bought ginger chews and prenatal vitamins, and a second trash can for the bathroom because I live like a raccoon when I'm stressed. He bought a notebook and wrote the things we had to do down in neat block letters, so I wouldn't argue with a list. The note said, decide on prenatal test or not, WIC appointment, shop pediatrician, draft parenting plan templates if I am dad. Temporary version for the first year. Do not sign voluntary acknowledgement if uncertain. At 12 weeks, the nausea eased. At 14, I felt like someone had put a tiny restless bird inside my body. I texted him, she kicked, and he wrote back, science says you won't feel kicks for weeks. You felt a gas bubble. But I'm glad it felt like a kick. He was not being mean. He was keeping our words from making futures we hadn't earned. We skipped the non-invasive prenatal test after a three-way non-conversation with Jordan where he said, I'm not giving blood for something that isn't admissible, and Caleb said, I'm not paying for science cosplay, and I said, okay, because the third voice is always the one that sounds most like surrender. I imagined every outcome. In one, Caleb is the father and forgiveness blooms like a milkweed you didn't plant. In another, Jordan is, and my life becomes a diagram with lines pointing to bills and calendars and a custody schedule written by a mediator who has a soft voice and a corner plant. In the worst version, the test comes back, excluded for both, which means my calendar math was wrong and panic did the rest. I let myself visit that version for 5 seconds at a time, and then closed the door. Caleb came to the 20-week anatomy scan and stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed, watching the black and white swirl like a storm radar. There's a hand, the text said. And here's the spine. Nice and straight. He didn't cry. I didn't either. We are both good at not performing emotions for people we owe less to than the moment itself. In July, I moved my clothes to the smaller closet and put his things into boxes labeled calmly in Sharpie. Winter/kitchen/books. He came on a Saturday morning to move them out. He brought coffee for me and treats for Biscuit. He untangled his chargers from mine without anger. He looked at our couch for a long minute like a person saying goodbye to a friend who never did them wrong. Keep it, he said. You fall asleep here more than I do. We didn't talk about us like a relationship after that. We talked about the baby and bills. He sent me a link to the state child support calculator with a line. If I'm dad, we can use this to get it on paper so neither of us have to be the bill collector. He suggested a mediator to draft a simple parenting plan in the event he was the father. Frequent contact in the early months, gradual overnights once feeding allowed, holiday swaps that didn't punish anyone. He used words like advanced planning instead of hope. Jordan texted twice. Once to ask how I was feeling, and once to ask if I'd considered my options with an earnestness that made me want to throw my phone. I didn't reply to the second one. He is not a bad man. He is, at best, an accessory that doesn't fit the outfit you're wearing when life shows up with a clipboard. Labor came like it does for most people. On an inconvenient day with more bodily fluids than anyone warned me about. Caleb drove me to the hospital because he was on the schedule, and because I needed someone who knows the way a contraction teaches you how small language is. He unrolled a pair of grippy socks from a Ziploc like a magic trick. He stood near my shoulder when the anesthesiologist over-explained the risks. He counted with me. He did not touch my face. When the nurse asked about the father's name for the birth certificate, he said, "Not today." The social worker nodded like that sentence had been spoken in that room before. My daughter came out furious and hungry, a perfect stranger who knew my smell. They placed her on my chest, and I felt a slot inside me click into a place I didn't know was empty. Caleb cried then. One tear, caught quickly, like he'd allowed it 5 seconds in his plan and then moved on. He took a photo of us and handed me my phone to send to my mother. He changed the second diaper, and then left the room so the lactation consultant could poke at me without him being a memory standing in a corner. On day 2, he rolled in a cart with a car seat he'd installed base first because the videos told him to and checked with the nurse that it was snug enough. He asked me if I wanted him to push the wheelchair to the curb. I nodded, again grateful for the parts of love that don't require speech. The paternity test was scheduled for the following Wednesday at a lab in a dull building near the DMV. They swabbed all 3 of us. Me, the baby, and Caleb. And sent us back into the heat with cheeks that felt absurdly intimate. 4 to 7 business days, the tech chirped. Business days are a torture device when you owe someone a truth that will end something. On day 5, the phone call came. Probability of paternity, 0%. The woman on the line sounded like a weather report. Thunderstorms north. Caleb is not the father. I texted Caleb a photo of the result. He called immediately, his breath doing that thing it does when he's forcing himself to sound steady. Okay, he said. I'll be over in an hour. I'll bring the acknowledgement of parentage form for you and Jordan when you're ready. Don't sign anything with me on it. I'll bring my spare keys. He knocked softly. Biscuit yowled. He stood in my doorway with a manila folder and a small gift bag that made me ache. Diaper cream and tiny socks and a note that said for her. He set the keys on the hook with a small click. I'm so sorry, I started because the apology had been warming in my mouth for months. He held up a hand. Don't, he said, not unkind. You don't owe me sorry for biology. You owe me honesty. You gave me the call. He stayed for 20 minutes to hold the baby one last time under the category of uncle who was there when she arrived. He smelled her head and whispered something I didn't ask him to repeat. He kissed my forehead. He said, I'm going to go now so you can make the next call. I called Jordan. He sounded like a person at a stoplight when a flyer hits the windshield. Oh, he said. Okay. The next day he texted, I'll do the swab. We went to the same lab. He filled out a form with his neat barista penmanship. He didn't ask to hold her. He did anyway after the text said, you might want to get used to it. He flinched in a way that made me not hate him. The result came 3 days later. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. He is the father. The relief came first, because uncertainty is a bigger animal than responsibility. Then fear. Then a long, low acceptance that felt like the first time you realize winter has a smell. Jordan texted, what do we do now? The use of we made me cry in a way I never would have. Now was him signing the acknowledgement of paternity at the county office so the state would add his name to the birth certificate, both of us bringing IDs and stopping at the window where a clerk with sparkly nail polish triple-checked spellings. Now was him putting our daughter on his employer's health insurance within 30 days of birth. HR asking for the AOP and the birth certificate, processing it like it wasn't a miracle and a transaction. Now was meeting with a mediator, the same woman Caleb had sent me a link to write a simple parenting plan we could file to make our schedules law on paper instead of vibe and text. Now was the child support calculator that turned our incomes and daycare costs into a number nobody loves and everybody respects. Now was letting a man I barely knew pick up my daughter because the law and the swab said he should. Caleb didn't ghost. He wrote one last email with a subject line that made me want to frame it, and also throw it into a river. What I meant to say. In it, a handful of sentences I'm saving for the days when I want to lie to myself. Open didn't fail us, he wrote. Our discipline did. I will always be glad I was there when she arrived. Do not ever put someone's name on a birth certificate because you want a nicer story. You did the right thing when it was hard. That's all I wanted. He won, if that's a word you need, by refusing to make my crisis his identity. He didn't sign a form to make me feel safer. He didn't pay bills to buy the right to rage later. He didn't let Instagram decide what a man does when the woman he loves is carrying a baby that might be his. He sat still inside the ugliest version of patience, and waited for the lab to tell him who he was allowed to be. When it told him he was nobody in the legal sense, he chose the kind of human who sends diaper cream and walks away. He also wins every day now that he is not being drafted into a triangle I built. He goes running at 6 a.m. without checking if I need ginger ale. He doesn't get child support taken out of his check for a child that isn't his because he didn't sign his name to a truth he didn't own. He sleeps at his apartment without listening for a monitor. He dates again maybe. He is free in the ways that matter when you learn to respect your own boundary, even while someone you love is crying. I am not empty-handed. I have a daughter and a co-parenting plan and a file of things organized better than any part of my life has ever been organized. AOP, birth certificate, social security card, paternity results, insurance cards, WIC vouchers, mediator's agreement, the state's income withholding order I asked to route through the agency because I don't want to be anyone's accountant. I have a budget. I have a stroller with a wheel that squeaks and a neighbor who told me she'll sit on my couch while I nap if I need her to. I have a story I will tell my daughter when she is old enough to ask without flinching. I thought love could be open without needing to be careful. I learned that love is work and rules. Your dad and I will never be together. We will be kind. The man who held you on the day you were born was kind, too. He left because kindness is sometimes leaving. Jordan is not Caleb. That is not an indictment or a compliment. It is a fact. He works weird hours, he likes noise, he is trying. He texts me, "How did she sleep?" with emojis that make me roll my eyes and feel unexpectedly grateful. He took a baby CPR class because he likes credentials. He cried at her 2-month shots. He handed me a check I asked him not to hand me and set up the withholding instead, because systems are mercy. He stood on my stoop yesterday with a pack of diapers and a face that said, "I don't know what I'm doing." And I said, "Me neither." And our daughter sneezed 3 times like a punchline. Sometimes at 3 a.m., when I am a zombie with milk and a song stuck in my head, I picture the life where I could promise a different man a certainty I never had to test. Then the baby sighs and the future rolls over on my chest, and I am too in love with her to feel sorry for the version of me who wanted the kind of easy you can post online. If you're reading because you want a moral about open relationships, I don't have one you can embroider on a pillow. Monogamy would not have saved us from a broken condom or a broken rule. Honesty would have made the landing softer. Boundaries would have done the part we asked them to do instead of us using them like props. The useful pieces are boring. Don't sign a birth form if you're not sure. Don't pay bills you'll resent later. Apply for the programs that exist to keep poor new parents from drowning. Put schedules on paper. Use the calculator. Call the mediator with the plant. Don't make a child the price of your need to be the hero. Caleb texted me a month ago a photo of Biscuit sleeping in a patch of sun, like debt forgiven. "She misses you," I wrote. "She misses flopping onto your laptop while you're working." He sent a single heart and then nothing. That's our ritual now, moving on politely. He will always be the man who rolled in a car seat base and gripped the back of my gown when I thought I would float away. He will be someone else's now in all the ways that count. I hope she gets a spreadsheet when she needs one. I hope she never has to see him do the kind of patience he did with me. That kind of patience should be reserved for births and bridges. I keep the test sticks in a drawer like evidence of a crime for which the sentence was love. I don't know what I'll do with them. Maybe I'll throw them away when she is one and I have learned to forgive the girl who wanted freedom without remembering the cost. Maybe I'll keep them like talismans, an ugly little reminder that the things that change your life rarely arrive with the dignity of a paper invitation. The morning after the lab called, I texted Caleb a single line. "Thank you for waiting." He wrote back, "Thank you for not asking me to pretend." Then he sent me a link to the pediatric urgent care that takes our insurance with a note. "Save this. You'll need it one day at 7 p.m. I laughed. He's right, he always is. It is the dull kind of wisdom I used to think was boring. It is the exact kind that can hold a life.